Welcome to the AskJunior Daily Judgment Podcast. I'm Priya Sharma, and joining me today is Arjun Gupta.
Hello, everyone. We're excited to dive into today's incredibly complex judgment, GLAS Trust Company LLC versus BYJU Raveendran and Ors, a case that touches upon several crucial aspects of India's Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, IBC. But before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our podcast if you enjoy our daily legal breakdowns. We really appreciate your support.
That's right. Your support helps us reach more listeners and continue providing in-depth analysis of the latest court decisions. This case is a real doozy, Arjun, so buckle up. Now, let's get started.
This case, GLAS Trust Company LLC versus BYJU Raveendran and Ors, 2024 INSC 81, is a civil appeal before the Supreme Court of India. At its heart, it's a dispute arising from a settlement in insolvency proceedings against Think and Learn Pivalidi, BYJU's, a major online education company. Let's break down the players.
Right. We have BYJU Raveendran and his brother, Riju Raveendran, former directors of Think and Learn. Then there's the Board of Control for Cricket in India, BCCI, an operational creditor, meaning they provided services to BYJU's with a significant debt owed to them. And finally, the appellant, GLAS Trust Company LLC, acting as the administrative agent for a group of lenders who provided a massive USD 1.2 billion loan to BYJU's Alpha Inc., a U.S. subsidiary of Think and Learn.
The complexity starts with the fact that this isn't just a simple Indian insolvency case. There's a parallel legal battle playing out in the Delaware court in the U.S. GLAS, after alleging defaults on the USD 1.2 billion loan, took action in Delaware, leading to the removal of directors from BYJU's Alpha Inc., including Riju Raveendran. They also alleged fraudulent transfers of approximately $533 million from BYJU's Alpha Inc. to a U.S. hedge fund.
The Delaware court issued a preliminary injunction, freezing those $533 million, and later found Riju Raveendran in contempt for violating the injunction. This is where things get really interesting from an international legal perspective. We have a situation where actions in one jurisdiction, the U.S., have significant implications for proceedings in another, India.
Exactly. Meanwhile, back in India, the BCCI filed an insolvency petition against Think and Learn under Section 9 of the IBC, claiming an operational debt of approximately 158 crore, roughly USD 19 million. The NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal, admitted the petition, initiating the Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process, CIRP. This is the process under the IBC designed to rehabilitate or liquidate a financially distressed company.
GLAS, as a financial creditor, meaning they lent money to the company, also filed a petition under Section 7 of the IBC, but the NCLT disposed of it after admitting the BCCI's Section 9 petition, giving GLAS the right to file a claim with the IRP, Interim Resolution Professional, appointed during the CIRP.
Here's where the settlement comes in. Before the NCLAT, National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, the Raveendrans, through Riju, offered to settle the BCCI's debt of Rs 158 crore in installments. The BCCI agreed, and this is what GLAS objected to.
GLAS argued that this settlement was problematic for several reasons. First, they questioned the source of the funds used for the settlement, suspecting that it might be linked to the USD 533 million frozen in the U.S., violating the Delaware court's injunction. Second, they argued that the settlement constituted a preferential payment, giving the BCCI an unfair advantage over other creditors. Third, they argued that the NCLAT shouldn't have approved the settlement using its inherent powers under Rule 11, bypassing the formal process laid out in Section 12A of the IBC and Regulation 30A of the CIRPR regulations.
The NCLAT, however, approved the settlement, relying on Riju Raveendran's affidavit and undertaking that the funds were from his personal sources, including the sale of shares, and were unrelated to the U.S. proceedings. They also cited previous Supreme Court decisions that seemed to allow the use of inherent powers for settlements even after CIRP initiation. This is where the Supreme Court's judgment becomes crucial.
The Supreme Court's judgment delves deep into the evolution of the legal framework surrounding CIRP withdrawals and settlements. Initially, there wasn't a clear procedure for settlements after CIRP initiation. The court had to rely on Article 142 of the Constitution, its inherent power to do what's necessary for justice. but this led to inconsistencies.
The Insolvency Law Committee, ILC, recommended changes, leading to the introduction of Section 12A of the IBC and Regulation 30A of the CIRPR regulations. These provisions establish a detailed procedure for withdrawing CIRP applications, requiring, among other things, the approval of 90% of the Committee of Creditors, COC. The COC is a body representing the creditors of the company.
The Supreme Court meticulously traces the amendments to Regulation 30A, highlighting how it addresses previous ambiguities and aims to reduce reliance on inherent powers. The Court emphasizes that once CIRP is initiated, the proceedings become in rem, affecting all creditors, not just the initial petitioner.
The Supreme Court found that the NCLAT erred in using its inherent powers under Rule 11. They ruled that even though the COC hadn't been formed at the time of the settlement, the NCLAT should have followed the procedure outlined in Section 12A and Regulation 30A. This means the settlement application should have been made through the IRP and submitted to the NCLT, not directly to the NCLAT.
The Court also addressed the issue of GLAS's locus standi, its right to bring the appeal. They rejected the argument that only the initial petitioner and the debtor have standing in such cases. Since CIRP was initiated, GLAS, as a verified creditor, had a legitimate interest in the proceedings and was rightly aggrieved by the NCLAT's decision.
The Supreme Court's judgment is significant because it clarifies the procedure for withdrawing CIRP applications, particularly when the COC hasn't yet been formed. It emphasizes the importance of following established procedures and limits the use of inherent powers to exceptional circumstances. It also underscores the collective nature of CIRP proceedings once initiated.
The judgment doesn't delve into the merits of GLAS's objections regarding the source of funds or the alleged fraudulent transfers. Those issues remain to be resolved in other ongoing proceedings. However, the Court's decision to set aside the NCLAT's judgment sends a strong message about the need for adherence to the established legal framework under the IBC.
This case highlights the complexities of cross-border insolvency and the importance of coordinating legal proceedings across different jurisdictions. The interplay between Indian and U.S. law and the potential for conflicts is a fascinating aspect of this case.
The Supreme Court's decision reinforces the principle that the IBC is not merely a debt recovery mechanism but aims to balance the interests of all stakeholders, including the corporate debtor itself. The judgment provides much-needed clarity on the procedural aspects of CIRP withdrawals and settlements, promoting greater predictability and fairness in insolvency proceedings.
And that wraps up our analysis of today's judgments. We hope you found our discussion informative and engaging. It was a complex case, Priya, but hopefully we've managed to shed some light on the key legal issues.
Absolutely, Arjun. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow for another exciting episode.
Before we sign off, we'd like to remind our listeners once again to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue bringing you daily updates on the most important legal decisions.
Absolutely. We appreciate you joining us on AskJunior Daily Judgment.
And Arjun Gupta, signing off. Thanks for listening.